What is up, YouTube? It is Wu-Tang Wednesday, and we are here with Protect Your Deck. Bloodrush Fellows out of Colorado Springs. We're going to do this bi-weekly podcast on all things flesh and blood, and we're going to release it every other Wednesday, starting today and ending for the history of the universe. We're doing this every other Wednesday until we're all dead.
Every Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday. I am here with none other than the Tucker Campbell, a.k.a. the Guardian Goliath, a.k.a. the Oldham Overlord, a.k.a. Tuck Lovesson, a.k.a. the winner of Battle Hardened Dallas. That's first place. Give me the PTI. Give me the gold foil, a.k.a. the creator of our favorite FaB Life. Have you ever heard of it? Tuck, what's going on, dude?
Not much. Pretty excited for heavy hitters coming up. Thanks for the awesome intro. My God, I don't know how the energy. That's classic Dan, though. Happy to be here.
Hell yeah. So this is our first of many episodes, and I am so happy to have you on for the first one. The topic for today's podcast, which we will get to, is going to be how to improve in Flesh and Blood, outside of Flesh and Blood. But before we get into that, I know you're doing a lot of work on the app. Tell us what is coming up in the latest update.
Oh, man. So the last 2 weeks or so, I've been working on a lot of different things. Some of them are just random ideas that I'll just quickly implement. So today I just added, there's an expansion on the main menu for if you have optional features. They're not cluttered on the menu anymore. But the big thing is that 4 through 8 players are all going to look a lot better. And there's just a lot of improvements, including battery optimization. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. So stay tuned. Should be out in, honestly, when this video goes live, probably.
This is going live tonight. Right after this, I'm going live with it.
Nope, should be out in about a week.
All right, so a week from today. I have to release it today because it is Wu-Tang. It actually is Wu-Tang Wednesday. I can't promise that I'm going to record every podcast on Wednesday, but they'll all be released on Wednesday. So, and of course, I'm wearing the Protect Your Neck.
Yeah, for the Wu-Tang.
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I'm saying. So I said a lot of things in your intro. One of them was that Battle Hardened weekend. So you took first place in Battle Hardened Dallas. Talk a little bit about that experience and how that went. I was there, but not everyone that's listening to this was there. And it was a fun weekend. So give us a little bit of
like a recap, or what do you have in mind?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know even the format of what the Battle Hardened in Dallas was. So give us tell us what the format was, how you did the sealed, how you did the draft. It doesn't have to be super long, but
awesome.
I think it's you won the Battle Hardened, bro. That's pretty impressive. And there was a bunch of killers in that Battle Hardened. So let's talk about that.
It all starts with the Calling Dallas, what we traveled there for. It was a great time. Shout out to Dylan Williamson and Michael Kaywood for both placing really high in that as well. That's our teammates there. Dylan on Dromai and Michael on Lexi.
Dylan was on 5.
Dylan on 5. Oh
Dylan was on 5. Michael.
That long already.
Yeah, Michael was on Lexi though. Michael was on Lexi.
Yeah, it was a good time. So I played Tank Dash in the Calling Dallas, and that went okay. Ended up going X and 3. I think you had to be X and 2 for the next day or something like that. I was one away from the next day. And thought, okay, well, we'll do the Battle Hardened. It's like $50 to play sealed, whatever. We'll see what happens. And then I open my packs, and I get nothing other than Teklo with 2 sentry bases, and I had 3 slots filled. I didn't even have Evo 4, and I thought, okay, well, we'll just make the most of it. And I'm, like you said, longtime Guardian player, so I just played Teklo Boston like a Guardian as we became more and more familiar with as we got into the Bright Lights limited season. And all 7 rounds of that Swiss, every single round was a Teklo Vossen mirror. 7 back-to-back rounds of Teklo v Teklo.
Were you happy about that, or were you shit?
Oh, it was awesome. It was 7 Guardian mirrors. That's my bread and butter. And I even had an opponent around round 4 who said, hey, I really don't want to go to time. Do you mind if we play this fast? And I had a big shit-eating grin just thinking, yeah, okay. And he ended up making more mistakes by his own request. And I'm just, trying to keep at the pace to play this fatigue game plan. So that went great. I lost in round 7 though, when we thought was a win in, and I was really disappointed. Figured, well, it was a cool run, whatever. Only 3 slots, and as they're announcing it, they called me as the 8th seed, and we lost our shit. It was awesome. We really celebrated, and that's when y'all told me that it is a draft top 8. And I thought, okay.
So Tuck. So yeah, a side story is we go to Tuck, and everyone else that did the Battle Hardened had scrubbed out at this point. So we're all riding the Tuck's fucking win streak, And we go to talk, and we're like, yo, how are you gonna, how is it looking? And he goes, I could top 8 with this, but I cannot win with this hunk of garbage. And we said, bro, it cuts to draft. And the look on your face when we told you that it cuts to draft, you were like, wait, are you guys serious?
Yeah. So that was awesome. It was like a fresh, clean slate that freed me from the shackles of only having 3 Evo slots in a mediocre deck. And we sit down to draft, and the guy to my right in pack 1, pick 2, gives me an Annihilator engine, one of those 3-for-9 overpowered, just killer Majestics for Teklovasen. And I thought, okay, well, I've windmill that, and we're going to force Teklo. And it came back around to playing him in the finals. I fatigued a Max in quarters, played a Teklo mirror in the semis, and beat someone who had originally beaten me in Swiss, and then come back to this guy to my right in the finals. And it was a really awesome match because he was playing a really killer Max. He knew the fundamentals. He knew how to apply pressure to a Teklo and fatigue the Teklo, as we saw in the semifinals to his opponent. And he forced me to block with the Annihilator engine, and both of us thought, he basically had the game, the momentum was his, and I'm thinking, where's my out? And then I draw a red backup protocol, and I slam that on the ground. We both look at each other, and we're like, oh, there it is. And I was able to use the protocol to get back the Annihilator engine and get him down to 1 life with the absolute bomb that he had passed me in the draft before ultimately taking it. It was just a really awesome moment, and we had a great time. Dan lifted me up on his shoulders. Awesome celebration and photos that we had. It was a good time. It was really awesome.
That picture will be the thumbnail for this, for sure.
Yeah, I've already got it done.
Yeah, that was an awesome weekend. And you ended up beating Floren, who, if you guys don't know who Floren is, he is a pro player from Austria. It was him and his team that we always see. We see they're very good, and it's always good to see them. But we ended up having the scene gets a little incestual because you see the same people no matter where you go. So it feels like, and we always have a ton of support. I mean, the Colorado scene is insane. So it feels like no matter where we go, we're in Colorado.
It's competitive.
Yeah. But taking the game off Floren was nice because Floren had beat me in the top 8 in the PTI in Vegas.
Yep.
So, thank you for, thanks for redeeming me there.
And as our game ended too, he talked about how he was like 4 in a row. He had made the finals of Battle Hardened and kept losing in the finals. And then I saw one FaB TCG that he did end up winning a Battle Hardened, I think in November.
At Worlds.
December.
I think he won the Battle Hardened in Worlds.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, where he's an absolute killer. He really knows his stuff.
It was nice to see him there. They had him and his teammates were making a joke about how he's like cursed, how he makes it to the finals of all these things, or at least the top 8 to all these things, and he hasn't been able to crack that victory. But I mean, I can't wait to see him, to give him a shout out, and if you're gonna win one, Worlds is where to win it, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was cool to watch, and I think didn't you both get PTI?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. PTI went to top 2 in the Battle Hardened, so he said he had collected PTIs, but he just wanted that win, that gold foil.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun to watch. You played that like a killer, and that was cool. But taking first place in anything in a scene that's super competitive when we travel is super impressive. So I definitely wanted to talk about that, but that will kind of loop into the the topic of today's podcast. And before we get into that, we need to shout out the homie Easton Douglas. Easton went to Worlds and top 4'd on a list that wasn't super. I don't think people were really expecting it. I know you were, because he had shouted you out in his one of his interviews. He said that you guys were talking about that list. But was it interesting to me was the article that Easton had written post Worlds on how he got there. And this is something that I pride myself on. All the guys on Bloodrush Fellows, all the guys in the Springs know that I pride myself on winning the game of Flesh and Blood outside of Flesh and Blood. And the article that he wrote, which I will put in the YouTube comments for sure, it's on his Patreon. You can access this article for free on his Patreon, and he has a paid article on Tempo, which I highly recommend. I'm subbed to his Patreon today, and I read it today, and it's really, really good. And I'm not going to give you guys any of the secrets. Buy that shit.
Support Teal Water.
Support Easton. But his article was a lot about, and Tuck and I both played against Easton. Easton is he lives in Denver, right?
Yeah, he lives in Denver.
He's up in Denver. So Bloodrush Fellows and our team is based down in Springs, but we're only about an hour away from Denver. Whenever there's anything competitive that happens, we always see all those guys from Team Ascent and the Killers out from Denver. We drive up there to some of their just armories. It's not that far away. Ironically, my first time ever going against Easton was in Vegas. And that's what I mean. Like, the scene can feel incestual because you see all these people, like even Matt McLeod, another guy on Team Ascent who I think lives up in Denver. First time I played him was in Vegas. And like, you see all these people all the time. What was interesting to me was I have played against Easton before. I've seen him at these, we all know him. We're like, gone out with him. We all went and got drunk at the thing in Vegas. He was, he was there. There was something different about him that I couldn't put my finger on when I saw how he was playing at Worlds. And everyone that I saw, we were all, me, you, and all the guys were up till like 6, 7 in the morning watching the...
I went to bed at 10.
Yeah, and we were all watching it. And he had like a different aura about him. And I don't know how much work he put in. And again, this is before I had read the article that he wrote on how he top forward. I didn't know how much work he put in, but I know he put in work because there was like a different aura about him. And then when he releases this article, most of it, he does talk about the dash list. He talks about the matchups because I know that people, when they read that, they're going, what's the deck list and what's the tech and all that stuff. But he talked a lot about fitness. He talked a lot about climbing. He talked a lot about getting his mentality right. And for those who don't know, say again?
I said, well, it's the Slab dash.
Yeah, right? And what was the reasoning behind it? He called it Slab?
Well, I don't want to give away the secrets of the Patreon.
Is it not on the... Yeah, read the article. You know what? We're not going to... But he does talk... Yeah, he talks about... he talks about how he started to kind of pay attention to other things outside of just grinding games and just Flesh and Blood. And when me and you really kicked it off... So Tucker was annihilating everyone on his Oldham. It was very oppressive. My girlfriend Susan, I would come home from every armory. And did you get there? And I'd be like, I was against Tuck in the finals. Did you get there? Nah, I lost. The next week. Did you get there? I lost to Tuck in the finals. The next week. Did you get there? I lost to Tuck in round 1.
I mean, that's Katsu life, right?
Yeah.
The Oldham, one and everything else.
I've beaten other Oldhams, though. I've beaten other Oldhams. I've traveled and I've beaten other Oldhams, and I have never got close to beating your Oldham. But when we at first really connected, before I was on Bloodrush Fellows, before I was really hanging out with all you guys, we were at the gym. I think you had reached out to me and you were excited to start working out, but you just didn't know where to start. And I was like, I've coached CrossFit and done the whole thing. I love doing this, especially for people who give a shit about it and want to learn how to move their body and do the whole 9. And we went to the gym, and that was where we really hit it off. And I wanted to bring you on today to talk about the differences that you felt pre-working out and how that carries over to Flesh and Blood, and how if people really, 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 really want to talk about being best in the world or best in whatever, there's so much more to any sport, especially one that is looked at as a non-physical sport where we can incorporate physical things and make everything go full circle. I think people, when they see a game like Flesh and Blood, they want to get good. So then we live in this age where Twitch is there and we're used to watching the best players play, and we're used to seeing people do 24-hour streams and 48-hour streams and people grind games over and over and over again. And I think that we have this image that that's what it takes to be the best. And if you read Easton's article, it almost says the opposite. He wasn't grinding as much. He was paying more attention to how much time he was taking off, and then he was doing other things outside. So how much of an impact do you think, and we can dive in, but how much different did it feel? Because I knew you were doing tournaments and stuff before you started this fitness journey. Do you feel a difference?
A massive difference. It makes everything. It changes the context that you're living your day to day in, and that helps a lot. Especially with, I know a lot of us, work from home. We are on the computer a lot, are playing cards a lot, board games. It's easy to just be really sedentary
and not do a whole lot throughout the day. So having gym, rock climbing, frisbee, like whatever you want to do, just going for walks around the neighborhood, anything that you're routinely and habitually getting up and doing just really improves your day-to-day awareness of things. It helps keep your mind like it's hard to explain. It's kind of like meditating in a way. It's like meditating, but through physical activity.
Hell yes,
to,
dude.
To clear the mind, keep you leveled.
Hell
So it
yes.
definitely makes a difference no matter what it is. And it's not like do this one thing and magically you're cured. It's go do almost anything that has this like positive physical effect. And as someone who like struggles to keep that going for long periods of time, I've definitely noticed everything feels better and more focused when you have that going. But then when you're not, like, you also feel a difference too. So it's more incentive to keep that routine going once you get it started. I think finding that thing that you really like doing, whether it's going to the gym or rock climbing or anything, it's gonna be the hardest part. But once you get it going, it's very much worth the payoff.
I agree. It's one of those things too where I like that you were like, it's hard to explain because it is. I think that I think it helps with like mental clarity and like decision making, of course. But if you want to be best in the world, that means playing a lot of Flesh and Blood over the course of a weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And like mental and physical fatigue is an actual thing. I have like competed in both physical and non-physical sports. And this is where I think like, I mean, I still haven't done shit in Flesh and Blood, but I've been pretty successful in a very short amount of time. And I think that a lot of that comes from this thing specifically, because unfortunately, the demographic that shows up to like a card event, a lot of people are sedentary. And a lot of people we all work from home and do the thing. And a lot of people like to play Flesh and Blood. So that's another sedentary thing that they're doing. When I sit across my opponent, especially later in the day or on day 2, and I can see that they're physically out of shape, I know that I may not have they might be a better Flesh and Blood player than me. Chances are they are. I've only been playing since April. But I know that I'm not as tired as them. I know that my brain is working better and I have more mental clarity because of all this carryover from the sports that I used to do. And I used to see this like transfer as soon as I started playing. I played TFT, Runeterra, Hearthstone, fighting games, on top of the physical things that I've done. And there was such a big, like, quick connection that I picked up on, like, oh my God, this is helping me so much in this other thing. And not a lot of people in this thing are doing physical activity.
Well, and I think it's not just a physical thing too. That's definitely an aspect of it. But I think it's just as important to mentally focus on various other things and limit the amount on Flesh and Blood too. If you're gonna spend 4 hours in a given day on Flesh and Blood, would you rather just be spending 4 hours and kind of wasting it looking at cards going ooh ah, or would you rather really be trying to get the maximum perspectives and like iterative information that you can in that period of time? And I think that the less time that you spend in Flesh and Blood, the more you're capable of going through this like in-depth analysis rather than just. I mean, I'm pretty guilty of just spending entire days just poring over cards, and I walk away going, well, what did I learn? And the answer is like some stuff, but I probably could have learned that in a much smaller period of time too.
So there's
that's one. Like,
so you think that there's like a tipping point, right? Where like too much Flesh and Blood is not actually getting you better. It might actually be getting you worse.
Well, it can. It just depends on where you're at mentally. And if you, for example, I think I've told you this before. When I played Oldhim and only Oldhim and nothing but Oldhim for months on end, I would start to notice certain play patterns and just like default to those, not really even evaluate or think of other things because I was so used to doing this and doing this and doing this that my brain developed pattern recognition and favoritism because I was just so used to it. Whereas then once I started playing other decks and came back to him, then it's like you get a fresh perspective on things. And I think it's the same, not just with Oldhim and various decks, but with Flesh and Blood in general and other activities that you're mentally focusing on, not just physical activity, but just to keep some variety. I think is just very important.
Do you think it's important to maybe play other games or stimulate your brain in other ways that aren't Flesh and Blood?
Absolutely.
What are your favorite ways to do that? Are there any other games that you play that you think carry over to you being a better Flesh and Blood player? Or maybe you're like, fuck it, I don't need this to make me a better Flesh and Blood player. I need to mentally take a break from Flesh and Blood, and this is like the best way for me to do that.
No, I never want to take a mental break from Flesh and Blood.
Same though. I asked that question selfishly, bro. That wasn't like I'm leading Tuck to this answer and he's gonna. I'm like, yo, do you have like a? Because I mean I struggle with that, and for me, my outlet then is the gym. And you said something earlier that I want to like circle back to. You said it's almost meditative. I think that's a separate thing, and I think but it's also equally as important. When I set up to like. And when I used to coach, I coached CrossFit and I coached Olympic weightlifting, and I competed in both of those sports at a very high level. I used to tell my athletes all the time, you can't stay in shape all year round. You will go crazy. In the winter, I like to get fat. In the winter, I like to have cheat meals. No, I haven't been to the gym. A lot of it was because I spent the entire month of December being sick. But today was the first day back in the gym for like 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I did not go to the gym. I didn't lift a single weight. And I would tell my athletes all the time, like, you can't stay in shape. So I know you're beating yourself up a little bit because you said, you know, when you fall out of it, you feel the effects too. But I think all of those are very important. I think some of the benefits I had from doing like weight cut sports, and I say weight cut sports specifically because you have to peak when you compete. I can deplete all my water weight and I can hit weight and do whatever. And if I don't do it scientifically and have it line up with the day that I'm competing, it is a night and day difference. So when I prep for like a Flesh and Blood tournament, I'm trying to peak everywhere. When you see him at when you see it,
I'm intimately aware because I remember in Dallas, you and Susan woke up and said, "Hey, let's go work out. Let's go hit the gym."
You guys came with us.
Dragged me and Peter in there, and y'all are just pumping iron like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And I remember me and Peter were exhausted, and we were there more in spirit than we were physically.
You were there though.
But it was awesome. It was a great way to start the day. It really helped. Like throughout that whole day, Peter and I kept talking about how it's really glad we did that. But in the moment, oh my God, I don't know how y'all did it.
Yeah, and like I said, I took a few weeks off, and I would have taken those weeks off, not maybe 4, probably 2 if I wasn't sick. I still would have taken a couple weeks off around the holidays. But like, for anyone listening to this, if you're going to be in LA, you bet your ass when you see me, I will be in the best shape that I've been in quite some time. All my chakra will be aligned. Like when I go to these events, I'm trying to peak everywhere, mentally, physically, in Flesh and Blood. And I think that's another very important thing that people they just grind, and then they show up and they have like a lackluster performance. You have to have like all of those like pillars of like yourself have to be tuned in because everybody wants to win when we go to these competitions, and there's a bunch of killers that are at these things. Like there's a lot of really good Flesh and Blood. Say again?
So plus it a little bit of luck.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But even like...
But it's all three.
Even the luck, right?
And preparedness and the luck all coming together.
Yeah, whether you believe in like the secret, if you can like manifest your own luck, which I don't believe that if I think positively, positive things will happen. But I do believe that if I think positively, then I open up my senses to like pick up on more opportunity that if I was down in the dumps, I would maybe ignore. So I think like even the luck thing, dude, if you're in like a really good headspace, you could draw any hand that's not absolute gas and be like, oh man, I'm low rolling. And the difference in perspective of like, how do I make this hand go bonkers is just like a difference in mentality. It's a difference in showing up to a tournament, being like, I'm going to win. I did all the prep work. I'm on my fitness grind. I've been meditating like a monk and I'm just ready to like do the thing. You will feel a lot different about the hands that you draw. And I've been there because I've been on both sides. I've showed up to an armory and like been like, meh, whatever. And if like I don't draw Surging Strike, Whelming Gust Wave, Art of War in a blue, I'm like, oh, this hand's garbage. And then I've popped off with hands that like shouldn't do anything because I am like, I guess my positivity or the secret or whatever the hell you would call it, I'm like refusing to think that I'm going to lose this game at all. And you know that because I show up to these things and I'm like, I'll beat anyone. Like when I saw Easton's name pop up in Vegas, how stoked was I?
You were so excited.
I lost.
Beyond excited.
He beat me, but we're all coming for it.
You slipped in a brood a little bit and had that intimidating look. So,
I think I was wearing this shirt.
Beat your chest a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that's awesome. And this is like what I wanted to talk about this topic exactly. Like how I think there obviously is a level of grinding and a level of practice and a level of mastery that you have to have over the game of Flesh and Blood. But to like think that that's the only thing, I honestly think it's like, I think it's 50% of being successful is like your mastery on Flesh and Blood. And I think the other 50, I don't know how I would chop up the second half, but it's all the other things that we're talking about. It's meditation, it's your mind state, it's your physical. That first tournament, dude, when we showed up to Vegas, that was my first time traveling specifically for Flesh and Blood. I did not realize how malnourished I was until the next day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we learned pretty early on these trips that like as soon as you get back to the hotel, put your bags down, the first thing you go to is water. What is our source of water? Let's get some Gatorades. Let's keep each other like staying hydrated because it's so easy in the hype of the trip and being in the moment. And oh my God, let's go play. You just forget to drink, and that alone, if nothing else, like that alone is the one thing we focus on these trips to make sure that we are not just like mentally fatiguing ourselves and wasting the whole opportunity.
Yeah, it's huge, man. I'm not like, I feel like I'm one of these people that I've cut weight my whole life, so food is like, I don't have like an emotional connection like most people have to food. I can go like a couple days without eating and be like all right. Like I'm not like, oh my God, I'm starving. So for me, it was like I played myself because the whole time I'm like, no, I'm not hungry. No, I'm not hungry. No, I'm not hungry. And that last match against Floren, I actually lost because of a couple of misplays. There were 2 very bad misplays that I had, and I had no idea that I even did them until my teammates and Broughton, my coach, had said something, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I did those things. And I didn't realize, I didn't realize how hungry and how much of an impact that would have.
Well, the last thing I was watching, I don't remember what event it was, but it was sometime in December. I saw Brody Spurlock in Swiss towards the finals.
Bro, when he had the sandwich in his lap?
Yeah, he starts eating the sandwich, and the casters are like, I think that's his 5th sandwich today.
He's going through puberty, though. He's got to eat for like 2 grown men.
No, he's just, I think his backpack is more stuffed with sandwiches and drinks than it is with cardboard. And that's a statement in and of itself because the man wins. Like, he obviously is one of the best Flesh and Blood players around. And I think that leans back into what we're talking about is just being prepared and keeping your body in check while you're trying to keep your game in check.
Yeah, I saw Michael Hamilton when we were in Dallas. He was eating it was a little sad because he looked like Steven Glansberg from Superbad. He was like by himself. But he also was eating just a normal sandwich on white bread. That might be the secret, bro.
Well, plus it's a little intimidating for your opponent, too, if you're like deciding blocks and you whip out the ham and Swiss and you like ponder the block.
Is that the secret? Is it ham and Swiss? Is that specifically the...
No, I don't think so.
Dude, he had the sandwich on his lap. They had to cut to a different camera angle that was like top down, and it showed it showed half an eaten sandwich on his lap. How old is he?
Lord knows. I know how old he looks, but who knows?
He's like a little nugget.
Yeah. Little nugget of power, though.
Yeah. Is it his little power nugget?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start bringing sandwiches everywhere I go. There's something to this thing.
I think that's the secret. Yeah, we just start hitting the grocery store, making sandwiches. And
just show up
in the middle of our Swiss rounds.
We're gonna show up with a duffel bag filled with just sandwiches, like we're going to a picnic.
Yeah. Finish the round, bring over the basket.
So keep your fitness in check. If you want to, and again, this podcast, the podcast is for everyone. This episode might not be. If you don't give a shit about being super mega competitive, then it's like, yeah, man, have fun. Do whatever it is. If you want to get better at anything, you have to tie all these things together. And I think that the biggest thing that people sleep on is like peaking at the right time. I know everyone's excited because Heavy Hitters had some spoilers come out, and everyone's excited because we've been on this long break. And I was talking to Dylan Siren, and he was like, yo, why weren't you there yesterday? And I was like, to be honest, man, I don't want to grind hours and hours and hours until all the cards are released. Cause and I get it. Like if I was gonna play one of these new heroes, which I might, but if I had more interest, I would probably try to get as much mileage as I
Ninja.
can. Yeah.
Just saying, if it was
forget
Ninja.
it. Yeah, forget it. Are you kidding me? I'd be with you proxying all the cards, sandwich left and right, sandwich in my back pocket, carbon up. But I think like people get super duper hyped and then they grind, and then they start to burn out right before the tournament. And you want to be like peak there. And by peak, I mean like after, we usually spend like a couple days where we don't really say anything to each other. Not in a bad way, but when we go and we do these travels, it is like the best time. Say again?
Or like recovering.
Yeah, it is the best time ever. But after that, like, I don't want to see my phone ring or vibrate with any Flesh and Blood news or anything for like, give me just like 2 days. 2 days, because I don't want to think about anything else, because for like the last several weeks, all I've been doing is pouring everything into this. And we saw it manifest with Easton. Shout out to Easton, man. That was like, he made all of Colorado proud. That was really, really, really cool to watch. And it was like really cool for him to share that, because I'm sure a lot of people weren't super stoked when they read the article because they wanted just to know like the Flesh and Blood secret.
Right.
And
how do I block Pummel?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's like, you're never going to get that. And what he gave for those that are willing to listen and do the thing is so much more valuable than that, because I've been saying this for a while, and again, I haven't really done anything, but I haven't even been playing for a year, and big things are going to come, I can say that. Like, from everyone on Bloodrush Fellows, if it's not a name that you know, it's going to be a name that you do know, and everyone on this team are a bunch of killers, and we're out there doing it. So if you at least want to compete with us, know that we're hitting the gym, and we're hitting our meditation monk stance, and our chakras are all aligned, and we're showing up to these tournaments very, very, very prepared. And Easton just got the job done, man. He was more prepared, and he had a different aura about him. When I played against him in Vegas, he was still a killer. He took the game off me. But that same Easton at Worlds, I think he said, Wes was there, another one of our teammates. I'm going to have him on for next week. Wes was there when he said that playing against me I was menacing. I don't think that version of Easton was the one at Worlds. That guy's not telling me that I'm menacing.
No.
And he handled his loss like a G. He got OTK'd by that Icelander and clapped for his opponent, gave him knucks, pounded him, and had a big smile on his face. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
The sportsmanship too is just up there. It's like, he's one of the best that we got, you know?
He's got a target on his back. He's public enemy number one now, though, because everybody wants a piece of that now.
Yeah.
Now it's not just beating Easton, who we knew was like an OG, like, very good Flesh and Blood player. Now if you beat Easton, it's like, yo, I beat someone that was at top 4 Worlds.
Right. Really, that's how excited I am to play anyone on Team Ascent, because they're all just straight killers. And they all have accolades. They're all just really fun to play against. They have the best attitudes. Like you're saying, like the best sportsmanship, the best like outlooks on the game and life outside of the game too. They have a really good balance. It's always a pleasure to play against Easton and everyone else on that team.
I can't believe I'm saying this out loud on something that I'm going to release. They have pushed all of the Springs to be better Flesh and Blood players, though. I'm very much
the entire state to
Yeah.
be better Flesh and Blood players.
Yeah. I ain't worried about the rest of the state, though. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things that, yeah, Ascent has held. They rose the bar so high in Flesh and Blood that it's hard to not get good at the game, just as like a side effect of trying to keep up with those guys and playing against those guys at local stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we're so blessed living in Colorado because there was like a 1K up at was it level 7 games? I think it was level 7. If it wasn't level 7, then I'm very sorry that I'm not remembering the store from Denver that we did this 1K at. But all of Ascent was there. To be able to just like play against them on a semi-regular basis, it's like steroids for Flesh and Blood.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because like I know a lot of people play Flesh and Blood and their local scene maybe isn't as good. So it's like Broughton's one of those, right? Tyler Broughton plays in a scene where like if he shows up, he's just gonna win. It's like, how do you get better like that? I'm always surrounded by players that are better than me, so it makes it very easy to like improve.
Yep. Well, we're also blessed in Colorado to have so many events. Like we'll have 5, 6, or 7 Road to Nationals in that season. And sometimes we'll get 3 of them over the course of a 2-day weekend. And doing that for 3 weeks back to back to back, and also playing all of Team Ascent, all of Team Advantage, just all of these absolute killers up in the Denver and Springs area. It feels like the hyperbolic time chamber. It feels like we're just leveling up by the hour, being around all this absolute like talent and skill, and it's just a really awesome feeling and experience and community.
Hell yeah. I mean, when I read that article from Easton, I started, going a little bit heavier in the gym. I started maybe smoking less of Colorado's finest, and like I'm really trying to. And that's the thing is like, they know we're going up, and we're you see more people from Springs popping in. There was only one Battle Hardened winner in Dallas, and that guy was from Springs. Anything else? Any other shout outs while we wrap this up? Any other shout outs? Any other news coming up?
One more thing. There's one more thing that we got to talk about, and it's the gym channel in our Colorado Springs Flesh and Blood Discord. So you alluded to this earlier, how when we first started hanging out, really it was me asking for help getting in the gym. You went and worked out with me. It was awesome. I started working out consistently. I went for like 6 months or so, and then after a couple months of me in the gym, some of our local players, whether they were casual players, competitive, all started asking, how's it going? Oh yeah, I've been doing this. And little by little, we got more and more interest in this whole thing that became like a movement, where now, lots of people who were not going before are also on this fitness journey with us. We had this whole channel where people are encouraged to post, oh, today, I hit this, I did 20 reps of this, I walked this much. And then people see that, they react, good job. Encourages, and it's just become this like this snowball effect of helping each other get in shape, get fit, feel better physically, and thus play better cardboard too, if that's what you're going for. But some people are just trying to get fit, and it's been a really magical and surreal experience. So if anyone else listening, likes going to the gym and has some friends that don't, or maybe you're the opposite, you're the other side, just try and communicate with each other and get this ball rolling. And it's such an awesome community effect that will then rebound onto your Flesh and Blood scene too, if the two are paired together. It doesn't have to be Flesh and Blood. It's a cool way to both build each other up and get to know people better and make better friends. I cannot recommend it enough. And it all started with Dan here.
It started with us. It definitely started with us.
Yeah.
It did. And I appreciate that, man. It feels good because, again, like I used to coach and do this very, very competitively, but I'm 35 now. Man, I can't be throwing 300 pounds over my head anymore. So when I moved out here from the East Coast, it was one of the things that I thought like I'd never be able to, I never thought I'd be able to, no pun intended, flex that skill, because I spent like at least a decade studying this. I thought I was going back to get my master's. I was very close to opening up my own gym. My older brother owns a gym out in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Nice. So like, it's just one of these things that I really, really thought my life was going to be fitness. And I've always been a nerd. I've always been competing in, playing video games and doing the thing. And I saw like a lack of tying those two things together and how much one can help the other. And it's both ways. Olympic weightlifting is very much looked at as like the chess of weightlifting. Because you do two lifts. You do a clean and jerk, which sounds like two lifts in itself, but it's a clean and then a jerk is, the one movement that you're scored on, and a snatch. And both of those movements are, if the barbell is like a centimeter away or too close to your body, the whole lift is off. It is very, very like cerebral. And I don't want to just say that just fitness helps the mental stuff, because the mental stuff helps the fitness stuff. And to be part of this scene and have everyone in that Discord, chime in, and it feels real good, man. Shout out to Springs. We have something very, very special happening in this scene. And it got us to do things like the incline.
Absolutely. Yeah. I forgot about the incline. That was a great day.
Yeah. Shout out to Justin.
Mm-hmm. Justin's a real one for doing that incline.
Justin is a real one.
Oh my God.
If you don't know what the incline is, or you're not from Colorado, the incline is essentially a staircase that goes a mile up, and it feels like you're just walking into heaven. And it's not normal stairs. This is not cut out stairs where someone came in and they put a nice little stair. It is the most shoddy staircase ever. And it is straight up. If you're not in shape, you ain't doing it. If you're not acclimated to the altitude, you ain't doing it. If you don't show up prepared, you ain't doing it. Unless you're Justin. Because Justin showed up and he thought we were going to a normal hike. This guy showed up with a gun strapped to his side because of wilderness, because we're in Colorado. There's mountain lions and bears.
Yeah. Yep, you gotta respect bears.
He had a gun on his hip.
How many Gatorades in the backpack?
And about 30 Gatorades in his backpack, snacks and the whole nine. And he shows up and he goes, "Oh, this is the incline?" And the entire time I was convinced that he had done this before because he carries himself with so much like confidence that when he got to the top, he was like, "Yo, I thought we were doing a normal hike." If I thought we were doing a normal hike and I showed up and I saw a staircase that went into heaven, I would have been like, "Oh God, hamstring injury. I'll see you guys tomorrow." I would have bailed so quick. I cannot believe he did that.
I know.
But it's like you're right. It's like one of the dopest memories that I have. And it was like, it's really cool that the spring scene is, we have like rallied around Flesh and Blood and then rallied around this fitness thing. And you see the benefits of all of them happening. We just got to get Easton to come down here. I'm going to get him on this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. Man's an absolute killer.
He has no say in
Every
it.
word he says, you better have a notepad and pen and paper.
He has no say in it. He's definitely doing it. I'm signing him up to do this.
Gonna kidnap him?
I'll kidnap him, strap him to a chair, put a microphone in front of him, and we'll get the interview.
I gotta get anyone on that team would be.
No, we'll get
for
them.
us.
They're the homies. I'm sure
I'd love
they
to get
will.
Matt, man. Matt is so funny.
Matt is funny, and Matt is another one that beat me.
Yeah, if he's not at a wedding, that is. You
Is
gotta
he
watch
always-
out for his schedule.
Is he always in weddings?
Yeah.
Is he at that age?
This is. I guess I don't know.
There's
I
an
feel like
age where like
every single event we're traveling to, he's like, "Oh, I can't. I got a wedding. Sorry. Maybe the next one."
there's an age where I feel like when I was in like my young and mid 20s, where I was going to way too many weddings.
Yeah.
All right, before we close out, what is the biggest thing that you hope to see in heavy hitters?
Meta viable Guardian. That is a fun deck to play as and against. And I think Victor is that.
I really hope not.
That's why Guarded Dan.
Man.
This is the birth of Guarded Dan.
I really hope not.
He's gonna take the stage in LA.
I will play whatever's good. And LA, we're showing up top 8. I'm saying it right here. Someone from Bloodrush Fellows will
LA.
top 8 it. Might have a couple people up in there. It might just be all 8 of us.
Oh man.
Could you
The
imagine?
clout.
We wouldn't even have to play. We could rock, paper, scissors for who wins it the whole time. Ruin the top 8 broadcasts. No one will have any info on what the meta is, but they would know.
The first team banned from Flesh and Blood for colluding.
They would know. I mean, don't let all 8 of us in. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Tuck, I'm going to have you back on. We are going to be back on episode 3, and we're going to be talking about whether is LL or Blitz format, is it good for a competitive Flesh and Blood? I have opinions, you have opinions, and we're going to talk about that.
A lot of opinions.
We're going to be doing this, I told you, every other every other Wednesday, Wu-Tang Wednesday.
Tang Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday is going to be protected deck. I'm going to bring in a bunch of people from the team, outside of the team. Easton, he said yes, 100% guaranteed to have him on this. We're going to bring all the guys on. So, dude, thank you so much for being a part of episode 1. Thank you so much for talking about how to improve in Flesh and Blood, outside of Flesh and Blood. And again, if you guys don't have FaB Life, you're fucking up. Download the app now. Right? Pause this. It's going to go on for maybe 5 more seconds, but pause it here and you download the app.
And protect your deck.
Protect your deck. Yo, Tuck, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you guys.